Hello, everyone. Before we begin tonight's journey, I'd love to hear from you. What part of the world are you listening from tonight? Let me know down in the comments below. And while you're there, tell me what historical topic you would like to hear next. Now, get comfortable. Settle into your favorite sleeping position. Take a slow breath in and slowly breathe out. Allow the events of today to drift away. There is nowhere you need to be. Nothing you need to do. For the next little while, we are going to travel back in time together, far beyond the modern world, far beyond cars, electricity, and crowded cities. Tonight, we are going back nearly 2,000 years, back to ancient Rome, one of the most powerful civilizations in human history. When people think of ancient Rome, they often imagine mighty emperors, victorious armies, magnificent temples, and enormous cities built from marble and stone. They picture grand celebrations, crowded marketplaces, and powerful leaders making decisions that shaped the ancient world. And in many ways, those images are true. Rome was a place of extraordinary wealth and power. Its influence stretched across vast distances, from Britain in the north to North Africa in the south, from Spain in the west to the Middle East in the east. Millions of people lived under Roman rule. Roads connected distant lands. Ships carried goods across the Mediterranean Sea. Merchants traveled from city to city, and soldiers guarded the borders of a growing empire. To many people, Rome must have seemed unstoppable, a shining symbol of success and civilization. But beneath that impressive image, there was another side of Roman life, a side rarely celebrated, a side that most history books mention only briefly. A world experienced not by emperors, or senators, or wealthy merchants, but by ordinary people. People whose names were never recorded, people whose stories were rarely written down, people who spent their lives working in silence. Among these forgotten people were the slaves of ancient Rome, millions of them. Some were captured during wars, others were sold into slavery through debt. Many were born into slavery and never knew any other life. For them, life was often difficult from the very beginning. Freedom was not guaranteed. Comfort was rare. And each day brought new challenges. Some worked in fields beneath the hot Mediterranean sun. Others labored deep underground in dangerous mines. Some served wealthy families inside grand villas. Others carried heavy stones to build roads, temples, and public buildings. Their work helped build the Roman Empire, yet most received little recognition. Many Roman citizens rarely stopped to consider the lives of the people serving them. To the wealthy, a slave could simply be another worker, another possession, another tool. But every slave was a human being, someone with hopes, dreams, fears, and memories, someone who missed home, someone who wondered what freedom might feel like. Someone who hoped tomorrow might somehow be better than today. As we begin tonight's story, try to imagine standing at the edge of ancient Rome. The air is cool. The sky is dark. The city is still sleeping. A few distant lights flicker in the darkness. Smoke rises gently from scattered rooftops. The streets are quiet. The markets are empty. The temple stands silently beneath the night sky. Everything feels peaceful. For a moment, the empire appears calm, almost magical. But hidden behind stone walls and wooden doors, another day is preparing to begin. Thousands of workers will soon wake. Thousands of lives will follow the same difficult routine they followed yesterday, and the day before that, and the day before that. Our journey tonight follows one of those lives. Not an emperor, not a general, not a famous hero, but an ordinary Roman slave. A person whose story represents countless others who lived and worked throughout the empire. A person who awake before sunrise, work until exhaustion, and dream of a future that may never arrive. The stars still shine overhead. The city remains quiet. But dawn is approaching, and somewhere inside a crowded stone dormitory, a tired worker is about to open his eyes. Another day in ancient Rome is about to begin. So settle in, relax, and let's quietly step into that forgotten world together. The night is not yet over. The stars still hang above the Roman countryside. A cool breeze moves quietly through the darkness. Most of the city remains asleep. The wealthy rest comfortably in their homes. Merchants sleep peacefully before another day of business. Soldiers rest before returning to their duties. But for many Roman slaves, the day is already beginning. Far from the grand villas and marble temples, a small stone building sits in silence. Its walls are rough. Its floor is cold. Its windows are narrow. Inside, dozens of exhausted slaves lie sleeping side by side. There are no soft mattresses, no comfortable pillows, no private bedrooms, only thin straw mats spread across the hard stone floor. The room smells of dust, smoke, sweat, and worn clothing. After hours of hard labor the previous day, most slaves have fallen into a deep sleep. For a few precious moments, their bodies finally rest. Some dream of freedom. Some dream of family members they have not seen in years. Some dream of places they once called home, a distant village, a green countryside, a familiar face, a life that now feels very far away. The room remains quiet. Only the sound of slow breathing fills the darkness. Then, a noise breaks the silence. Footsteps. Slow, heavy, steady footsteps. Someone is approaching. The footsteps grow louder. Closer, closer still. Then comes the sound of a wooden door opening. The hinges groan softly. A small oil lamp appears in the darkness. Its flickering flame casts long shadows across the stone walls. An overseer enters the room. His face is tired, but his voice is firm. The workday is about to begin. One by one, the sleeping slaves begin to wake. Some open their eyes immediately. Others struggle to leave the comfort of sleep. A few stare silently at the ceiling, knowing exactly what awaits them. Another long day. Another difficult day. Another day of labor. Slowly, the workers sit up from their straw mats. Their muscles ache from yesterday's work. Their backs feel stiff. Their hands are rough and covered in calluses. Many are still exhausted. But exhaustion changes nothing. The Roman Empire does not stop because someone is tired. Work must continue. Fields must be harvested. Roads must be built. Stone must be cut. Goods must be carried. The empire depends on labor, and much of that labor is performed by slaves. The overseer raises the lamp higher. Its warm orange light reveals the faces around the room. Young men, older workers, people from different lands, different cultures, different languages, all brought together by the same fate. Some were captured during wars. Others were sold into slavery years ago. Many barely remember the lives they once lived. For some, this stone dormitory is the only home they have known. Outside, the first signs of dawn begin to appear. The eastern horizon slowly changes color. Black becomes dark blue. Dark blue becomes gray. Morning is coming. The workers quietly gather their simple belongings. Most own very little. Perhaps a wooden bowl, a worn tunic, a small personal item hidden away from view. Nothing more. There is little conversation. Everyone understands the routine. The same routine repeated Day after day, year after year, the slaves move toward the doorway. Some rub sleep from their eyes. Others stretch aching muscles. A few take a final glance back at the straw mats where they spent the night. Soon, the dormitory begins to empty. The workers step outside into the cool morning air. The sky is brighter now. Birds begin to sing in the distance. The world is waking up for a brief moment. The sunrise is beautiful. Golden light slowly spreads across the landscape. Olive trees stand quietly in the early morning mist. The countryside seems peaceful, almost calm, but the workers know what lies ahead. Hours of labor, hours of effort, hours of endurance, and the day has not even begun. Ahead of them, a simple breakfast awaits. Not a feast, not a celebration, just enough food to continue working. The slaves slowly walk across the courtyard. The smell of fresh bread drifts through the cool air, and for a moment, their attention turns toward the morning meal, because in a life filled with hardship, even a small piece of bread can become something worth looking forward to. And so, as the sun finally rises above the horizon, another day in ancient Rome begins. The morning air is cool. A gentle breeze moves across the courtyard. The sun has only just begun to rise above the horizon. Golden light slowly spreads across the Roman countryside. For a brief moment, everything feels calm, peaceful, almost beautiful. But the workers know this feeling will not last for long. The day's labor is waiting, and soon, every ounce of their strength will be needed. The slaves gather quietly in the courtyard. Some stand silently. Others sit on low stone walls. A few stare at the ground, still waking from sleep, still trying to prepare themselves for another difficult day. Nearby, large clay pots sit above small cooking fires. Thin smoke rises into the morning sky. The smell of simple food drifts through the air. For many workers, this meal will be the most important moment of the morning. Not because the food is special, but because it provides the energy needed to survive the day ahead. A servant begins distributing breakfast, one by one. The workers move forward. Each receives a small portion. A piece of coarse bread. A bowl of simple porridge. Sometimes a few olives. Sometimes nothing more. There are no luxurious meals. No rich sauces. No sweet desserts. Nothing like the feasts enjoyed by wealthy Roman citizens. The breakfast of a slave is designed for one purpose: to keep them working. The bread is rough, dense, and difficult to chew. Yet nobody complains. Hunger has a way of changing expectations. What seems small to one person can mean everything to another. Many workers eat quickly, almost automatically. Years of hard labor have taught them not to waste time. Others eat slowly, trying to enjoy the few quiet moments before work begins. Nearby, a young slave carefully breaks his bread into smaller pieces, making it last as long as possible. Across the courtyard, an older worker sits alone. His face is weathered from years beneath the Mediterranean sun. His hands tell the story of a lifetime of labor. Scars, calluses, cracked skin. Every mark represents another day survived. He eats silently, watching the sunrise, perhaps remembering a different life, a different home, a different family. Many Roman slaves carried memories like these. Some remembered villages far away. Some remembered childhood homes. Others remembered parents they would never see again. and some had been enslaved for so long that those memories had already begun to fade. The courtyard slowly fills with conversation, quiet voices, simple words, nothing too loud. The overseers are nearby. Workers discuss the day's tasks. Some will be sent into the fields. Others will work in workshops. Some will carry heavy supplies. Others will repair roads or buildings. Nobody knows exactly how difficult the day will become, but everyone knows it will be long. Very long. As the meal continues, the sun rises higher. The shadows grow shorter. Birds fly across the brightening sky. In the distance, the Roman world is waking up. Merchants prepare their stalls. Farmers begin their work. Travelers move along dusty roads. And throughout the empire, his hands tell the story of a lifetime of labor, scars, calluses, cracked skin. Every mark represents another day survived. He eats silently, watching the sunrise, perhaps remembering a different life, a different home, a different family. Many Roman slaves carried memories like these. Some remembered villages, far away. Some remembered childhood homes. Others remembered parents they would never see again. And some had been enslaved for so long that those memories had already begun to fade. The courtyard slowly fills with conversation, quiet voices, simple words, nothing too loud. The overseers are nearby. Workers discuss the day's tasks. Some will be sent into the fields. Others will work in workshops. Some will carry heavy supplies. Others will repair roads or buildings. Nobody knows exactly how difficult the day will become, but everyone knows it will be long, very long. As the meal continues, the sun rises higher. The shadows grow shorter. Birds fly across the brightening sky. In the distance, the Roman world is waking up. Merchants prepare their stalls. Farmers begin their work. Travelers move along dusty roads. And throughout the empire, millions of people start another ordinary day. But for slaves, there is very little that feels ordinary, because every day brings uncertainty, an injury, a punishment, a mistake. Any one of these things can change a life forever. The workers finish their breakfast. Wooden bowls are collected. The final pieces of bread disappear. The brief moment of rest is coming to an end. The overseers begin walking through the courtyard. Their presence changes the atmosphere immediately. Conversations stop. Smiles disappear. Everyone stands. Everyone waits. Orders will soon be given. Assignments will soon be announced. The real day is about to begin. One overseer calls out instructions. Groups of workers begin forming. Field workers gather together. Construction laborers gather elsewhere. Servants prepare to return to villas and households. Each group knows where it must go. The workers rise to their feet. Some take deep breaths. Others quietly stretch tired muscles. The day's labor has not yet started, yet many already feel exhausted. Ahead of them lie endless hours of work beneath the Mediterranean sun. Heavy loads, aching muscles, and little opportunity for rest. The gates open. The workers begin moving. Slowly at first, then steadily. A long line of laborers walks out into the morning light. The empire is awake, and the labor that keeps it running is about to begin. Far beyond the fields, far beyond the roads, beyond the hills and olive groves. The great city of Rome continues to grow. Its monuments, its temples, its wealth, its power, all built upon countless hours of human labor. And among those workers, walking quietly beneath the rising sun, are the forgotten people whose stories history rarely tells. Their day has begun, and the hardest part is still ahead. The sky is growing brighter now. The darkness of night slowly disappears. A soft golden light begins to spread across the Roman countryside. Birds sing in the distance. The cool air carries the scent of damp earth and wood smoke. For a brief moment, the world feels peaceful. But for the slaves gathering in the courtyard, the day has already begun. One by one, they leave the dormitory behind. Their eyes are heavy. Their muscles ache. Many slept only a few short hours before the overseer woke them. Now they stand together in silence, waiting, hungry, tired, and wondering what kind of day lies ahead. At the far end of the courtyard, several clay pots sit above small fires. Steam rises gently into the morning air. A servant stirs a large pot of porridge. Nearby, fresh bread is stacked inside wooden baskets. The smell drifts across the courtyard. For the workers, it is one of the few pleasant moments they will experience all day. Soon, the distribution begins. The line moves slowly. Each worker steps forward. A piece of bread. A small bowl of porridge. Nothing more. No feast. No celebration. Just enough food to keep a person working. Many Roman citizens enjoyed rich meals filled with fruits, meat, cheese, and wine. But slaves rarely experienced such luxuries. Their food was simple, cheap, and practical. The goal was not comfort. The goal was labor. A young worker accepts his portion and moves aside. He eats quickly, almost desperately. Yesterday's work burned nearly every bit of energy he had. Across the courtyard, an older slave sits quietly on a stone bench. His face is weathered by decades of sun and hard labor. He chews slowly, carefully, making every bite last. Perhaps he remembers another breakfast from long ago, a breakfast shared with family, a home that no longer exists. So before we continue, if you're still awake, let me know in the comments. And if you happen to drift off somewhere during tonight's journey through ancient Rome, that's perfectly fine. Now, get comfortable, and let's return to the Roman world. Not all Roman slaves worked in the fields, and not all slaves lived the same life. Some jobs were difficult, others were absolutely brutal. In fact, there were certain places where Roman slaves desperately hoped they would never be sent, because once they arrived there, many never returned. Imagine waking up before sunrise. You have already spent years working as a slave. Your body aches. Your hands are covered with scars. Then one morning, an overseer points at you. No explanation, no discussion, no choice. You are being transferred, and everyone around you suddenly becomes quiet, because they know where you are going, the quarry, or perhaps the mines. Among the hardest forms of labor in the Roman world were quarry and mining operations. Ancient quarries supplied the stone used for roads, temples, aqueducts, and public buildings. Rome's magnificent monuments looked beautiful to wealthy citizens, but someone had to cut every stone. Someone had to drag every block. Someone had to carry every load. And very often, that someone was a slave. The work began early. Huge limestone cliffs towered above the workers. Dust filled the air. The sound of iron tools striking stone echoed across the landscape. Hour after hour, day after day, workers carved blocks directly from solid rock. The sun beat down relentlessly. There was little shade, little comfort, and almost no opportunity to rest. Imagine standing beneath a cliff with a hammer and chisel. You strike the same piece of stone hundreds of times, then thousands. Tiny fragments fly into your face. Your arms burn. Your back hurts. Yet the work continues. Because stopping was not really an option. Roman construction projects demanded enormous amounts of stone. Roads, aqueducts, temples, and public buildings depended on quarry labor. Once a block was cut free, the real challenge often began. Moving it. A single stone block could weigh far more than a person. Teams of workers attached ropes. Others pushed wooden sleds. Some pulled together in large groups. Every movement required coordination. One mistake could mean injury. Or worse. Imagine dozens of exhausted workers leaning forward at the same time. The rope stretches tight, the stone shifts. Dust rises into the air. Someone slips. The overseer shouts. Everyone keeps pulling, slowly, painfully. The block moves another few inches, then another, then another. And tomorrow they would do it all again. Some laborers were sent to mines, and conditions there could be even worse. Ancient sources often described mining as one of the most feared forms of labor in the Roman world. Convicts and enslaved workers were frequently used in mines and quarries where conditions were notoriously harsh. Imagine descending underground before sunrise. The air grows heavier. The tunnels become darker. The walls close around you. Oil lamps flicker weakly. Every shadow seems alive. Workers dig deeper into the earth searching for valuable metals. Gold, silver, copper, iron. The Roman Empire needed resources, and slaves supplied the labor. Hour after hour, workers chipped away at stone. Dust filled their lungs. Fresh air was limited. The darkness never seemed to end. For many people, simply imagining such a place is uncomfortable. Yet for thousands of workers, this was daily life. Meanwhile, back in Rome itself, wealthy citizens admired beautiful buildings. They walked along smooth roads. They enjoyed fresh water flowing through aqueducts. They visited grand temples and public spaces. Few stopped to think about the people whose labor made those achievements possible, but behind every monument stood countless workers, many of them slaves, many of them forgotten. As evening approached, exhausted laborers slowly gathered their tools. Their clothes were covered in dust. Their muscles trembled from exhaustion. Some had spent the entire day cutting stone, others hauling it, others digging deep underground. The sun began to disappear behind the hills. Long shadows stretched across the quarry floor. The noise gradually faded. At last, the workday was ending, but tomorrow would look almost exactly the same, and for many slaves, that reality never changed. So, before we continue, if you're still awake, tell me in the comments. And if sleep is already beginning to find you, just relax. Close your eyes And let's follow the Roman slaves home. The sun is finally setting. After hours of labor in the fields, quarries, roads, and construction sites, the workday is over, at least for now. The blazing Mediterranean heat begins to fade. Throughout Roman history, there were moments when slaves decided they could no longer endure their conditions. The most famous example occurred nearly 2,000 years ago. His name was Spartacus. Spartacus began as a gladiator. Like many gladiators, he lived under strict control. But one day, he and a group of companions escaped. What followed shocked the Roman Republic. Thousands of slaves joined their cause. What began as a small escape grew into a massive rebellion. Across the countryside, people heard stories of Spartacus and his followers. For many slaves, these stories felt almost unbelievable. At last, someone was fighting back. At last, someone was challenging the system that had controlled millions. As the rebellion grew, Roman leaders became increasingly concerned. Large armies were sent to stop the uprising. Battles followed. Victories and defeats occurred on both sides. For a brief moment, it seemed possible that the rebels might change history. But Rome was powerful. Eventually, the rebellion was crushed. Spartacus disappeared from history. Many of his followers were defeated. Yet the story survived. For centuries, people remembered the gladiator who challenged Rome. They remembered the dream of freedom that inspired thousands to risk everything. Even though the rebellion failed, it revealed something important. No matter how powerful an empire becomes, the desire for freedom never disappears. As another day comes to an end, you lie quietly upon your straw mattress. The oil lamps flicker softly. Around you, exhausted workers slowly fall asleep. Outside, the Roman world continues its endless rhythm. Cities remain busy. Merchants continue trading. Armies continue marching. The empire continues growing. Yet inside this small room, another story exists. The story of ordinary people. People whose names were rarely recorded. People who built roads, harvested crops, carried goods, cleaned homes, and performed countless tasks that helped Rome flourish. Their lives were difficult. Their struggles were real. And although history often remembers emperors and generals, millions of slaves quietly carried the weight of the Roman world upon their shoulders. Tonight, beneath the same stars that shine above us today, they close their eyes and prepare for another dawn, another day, another challenge, and another fragile hope that someday, somehow, freedom might finally arrive. Long shadows stretch across the dusty roads. The orange sky slowly darkens, and thousands of exhausted workers begin the slow walk back to their sleeping quarters. Imagine yourself among them. Your legs feel heavy. Your shoulders ache. Your hands are blistered from tools and ropes. Dust covers your skin. Every step feels more difficult than the last. Yet there is one comforting thought. Soon you can rest. Not freedom, not comfort, not luxury, just rest. And sometimes that was enough. As groups of workers approached the slave quarters, small oil lamps flickered in doorways. Simple stone buildings lined the roads. These structures were not designed for comfort. They were designed for efficiency. a place to keep workers sheltered so they could labor again tomorrow. Imagine entering a crowded dormitory. The air is warm, the room is noisy. Workers are talking quietly. Others sit silently, too exhausted to speak. Some are already lying down. Many dormitories contained rows of simple sleeping spaces with little privacy. Conditions varied greatly depending on the owner and type of labor performed. On .wikipedia.org. For many slaves, personal space barely existed. You might sleep beside dozens of others. You might hear coughing, snoring, whispered conversations, or the sound of tired workers simply breathing after another difficult day. Yet compared to the noise of the quarry, or the overseer's commands, the dormitory could almost feel peaceful. Now imagine the evening meal. It would not resemble the lavish banquets enjoyed by wealthy Romans. There would be no golden dining halls, no elaborate feasts, no servants bringing endless courses. Instead, most workers receive simple food: bread, porridge, beans, vegetables, perhaps little olive oil, sometimes wine diluted with water. The Roman diet for laborers was generally practical and inexpensive, designed to provide energy rather than pleasure. On .wikipedia.org. After a full day of labor, even a simple meal could feel satisfying. Imagine sitting on a wooden bench, holding a piece of fresh bread. The day's work is finally behind you. For a few moments, no one is shouting. No stones need lifting. No fields need harvesting. You simply eat and rest. Around the room, conversations begin. Some workers talk about the day's events. Others share rumors. News travels surprisingly fast. A new overseer, a nearby estate, a possible transfer, perhaps even a story about a slave who somehow gained freedom. Those stories were rare, but they spread quickly, because hope spreads quickly, especially among people who have very little of it. Imagine hearing such a story. A worker in another town, a loyal servant rewarded by his master, a craftsman who earned enough trust to be freed. No one knows whether the story is true, but everyone listens because for a few minutes, it allows them to imagine a different future. Then the conversation shifts. Some workers speak about families, children, parents, brothers, sisters, people they may not have seen in years, people they may never see again. The Roman slave trade often separated families, making reunions uncertain or impossible. N.wikipedia.org. As darkness deepens, the room grows quieter. Oil lamps flicker softly against the stone walls. Their golden light dances across tired faces. Workers begin preparing to sleep. Some stretch aching muscles. Others quietly clean tools for tomorrow. Many simply lie down immediately. Exhaustion wins. Imagine placing your head on a simple straw mat. The sounds around you slowly fade. Outside, the Roman countryside is quiet. The stars appear overhead. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barks. A night bird calls. The world becomes still. For a few precious hours, the labor stops. The overseers disappear. The ropes, the tools, the stone blocks, the endless fields. All of it fades away. And perhaps, just before sleep arrives, you allow yourself to dream. Maybe of freedom, maybe of family, maybe of a life beyond the walls of the estate, a life where your time belongs to you. A life where tomorrow is your choice, not someone else's. For many Roman slaves, that dream was all they had. And tonight, it is enough. So, before we continue, take a slow breath, get comfortable, and let's leave the dusty fields and noisy quarries behind. Tonight, we're entering a completely different world. A world of marble floors, beautiful gardens, flowing fountains, and some of the wealthiest homes in the Roman Empire. Imagine approaching a grand Roman villa. The sun is rising. Golden light shines across marble columns. Birds sing in carefully maintained gardens. Water splashes softly from decorative fountains. At first glance, it looks peaceful, luxurious, almost perfect. But hidden behind the beauty, a small army of workers is already awake. Sometimes more complicated, but they were still slaves, and their lives still belonged to someone else. Imagine being one of them. You wake before the household, before the master, before the guests, before the children. The villa is quiet, but not for long. Soon everyone will expect breakfast, fresh water, clean rooms, prepared clothing, organized schedules, and all of that depends on workers already moving through the house. Household slaves in Rome often performed specialized duties including cooking, cleaning, child care, teaching, administration, and personal service. Now imagine walking through a long marble hallway. Oil lamps flicker softly. The floors are cool beneath your feet. You carry baskets of laundry toward a washing area. Other workers sweep floors. Some prepare food. Others polish furniture. Every person has a role. Every task must be completed before the family awakens. Because if something is forgotten, someone will notice. Soon the kitchen becomes busy. Very busy. The smell of baking bread fills the air. Clay ovens glow with heat. Pots simmer over open fires. Workers carry vegetables, olives, fruit, and fresh water from storage rooms. Imagine standing in that kitchen. The room is already warm. You hear knives chopping, pots bubbling, workers calling instructions. The day has barely begun, yet everyone is already moving quickly. The wealthy Romans who lived in these villas expected comfort, and comfort required labor. A lot of labor. Now imagine another group of slaves. These workers care for the children. Some teach reading and writing. Others accompany young Romans throughout the day. Educated slaves were sometimes highly valued and could serve as tutors, secretaries, or administrators. Think about that for a moment. Some slaves were highly educated. Some spoke multiple languages. Some managed business accounts. Some taught wealthy Roman children. Their work looked very different from quarry labor. Yet legally, they were still property. Imagine spending your day teaching a child to read, helping them write letters, explaining history and literature. You might possess knowledge that many free people never learned, yet you still cannot choose where you live, or where you go, or what tomorrow brings. Life inside a villa often appeared comfortable compared to the mines or fields. There was more shelter, better food, safer conditions. But there was another challenge: constant observation. You were always close to the master's family, always visible, always expected to perform perfectly. Imagine serving food at a dinner party. Important guests fill the room. Laughter echoes across the villa. Wine flows freely. Musicians perform in the background. You stand quietly beside the wall, ready to respond instantly if someone requests more wine, more food, or assistance. One mistake could become memorable, especially in a household where appearances mattered. Meanwhile, other slaves worked outside. Some cared for gardens, others maintained fountains, some looked after horses, others cleaned courtyards and pathways. Every beautiful corner of the villa required constant effort. Imagine walking through those gardens at sunset. Olive trees sway gently in the evening breeze. Birds settle into the branches. The fountains continue their endless flow. Guests admire the beauty, but few stop to think about the workers who maintain it. And yet, those workers are everywhere, quietly making the villa function, day after day, year after year. As evening arrives, the wealthy family gathers for dinner. Servants move carefully through candlelit rooms. Food is served, wine is poured. Conversations continue late into the night. Only after the family retires can many household slaves finally rest. Imagine sitting alone in a quiet corner of the villa. The work is finished, for now. The hallways are silent. The lamps burn low. Moonlight falls across the marble floor. For a brief moment, the house belongs to no one, and everyone. You think about your future. Will you remain here forever? Will your master reward loyal service? Will freedom ever come? No one knows. But hope remains. Even in the grandest villas of Rome, and even among those who seem closest to luxury, because beneath the marble, behind the fountains, and beyond the beautiful gardens, the reality remains unchanged. A slave is still a slave, no matter how magnificent the surroundings may appear. So before we continue, get comfortable, relax your shoulders, and let's travel into one of the most uncomfortable places in the Roman world. A place filled with noise, crowds, money, and human lives being bought and sold. Imagine arriving in a busy Roman city early in the morning. Merchants are opening their shops. Street vendors are preparing food. Citizens fill the roads. Many rarely thought about the enormous number of slaves whose labor made their lifestyle possible. Nearly every part of Roman society depended upon slavery. The food people ate, the houses they lived in, the roads they traveled, the goods they purchased. Behind countless achievements stood the labor of millions of enslaved people. As the morning progresses, your own work continues. You carry heavy sacks through crowded streets. The summer sun grows hotter. Sweat runs down your face. Your shoulders ache beneath the weight. But stopping is not an option. An overseer watches carefully. Mistakes can lead to punishment, and punishment is something every slave fears. Some owners are relatively reasonable. Others are harsh. A simple accident might result in a beating. Breaking a valuable object could bring severe consequences. The uncertainty creates constant stress. Every task feels important. Every mistake feels dangerous. Imagine spending every day worried about making an error. Imagine knowing that a single moment of bad luck could lead to suffering. Many slaves lived with this fear throughout their lives. As noon approaches, you finally receive a short break. The meal is simple, perhaps a small piece of bread, maybe some olives, a little porridge. Nothing luxurious, nothing exciting, just enough food to keep working. You sit quietly among other slaves. Most are exhausted. Some stare into the distance. Others think about families they may never see again. A few still hold on to hope. Hope that one day they might earn freedom. Hope that life might somehow improve. Because despite all the hardships, there is one thing that keeps many people moving forward: the belief that tomorrow might be better than today. And in ancient Rome, that small hope could mean everything. The afternoon sun hangs high above the Roman countryside. The heat is relentless, pressing down on the fields and roads with an almost unbearable weight. For many slaves, this is the hardest part of the day. Their bodies are already exhausted from hours of labor, yet there is still much work left to do. If you are working on a large Roman farm, there is little chance to rest. The owner expects every field to be planted, every crop to be harvested, and every task to be completed on time. Slaves spend long hours digging, carrying, cutting, and lifting. The work is repetitive, but it demands constant effort. Your hands are rough from years of labor. Small cuts and blisters cover your skin. Your back aches from bending over the fields. Sweat runs down your face and soaks your clothes. Yet you continue working because stopping is not an option. Around you, dozens of other slaves work silently. Some are young, others are old. Many have spent most of their lives in slavery. A few still remember the homes they once had before they were captured and sold. For many slaves, the hardest burden is not the physical work. It is the feeling of having no control over their future. A free citizen can dream about tomorrow. A slave often cannot. Every important decision is made by someone else. As the hours pass, stories begin to spread among the workers. One of the most common stories is about escape. Nearly every slave has imagined running away. Nearly every slave has dreamed of freedom. But escaping from the Roman world is incredibly difficult. The Roman Empire stretches across vast distances. Roads connect cities and towns. Travelers move constantly. Soldiers patrol important areas. Owners often offer rewards for the capture of runaway slaves. If a slave is caught, the punishment can be severe. Because of this, many slaves never attempt to escape. The risks are simply too great. Yet some still try. The hope of freedom is powerful enough to make people risk everything. As the afternoon continues, another subject enters the conversation: gladiators. Even today, the word brings images of grand arenas and cheering crowds. But for many people in ancient Rome, becoming a gladiator was not a glamorous life. Many gladiators were slaves. They trained for combat every day. They learned how to fight with swords, shields, and other weapons. Their lives were controlled by strict rules and harsh discipline. Although successful gladiators could become famous, every fight carried danger. Injury was common. Fear was constant. For most slaves, however, life in the arena was something they only heard about. Their own lives remained focused on endless labor. As the sun slowly begins to move toward the horizon, the work finally starts to slow. Tools are collected, animals are gathered, the day's tasks come to an end. The workers are exhausted. Every step feels heavy, every muscle aches. Yet there is a small sense of relief. The day is almost over. As evening approaches, the sky changes color. The bright light of afternoon fades into shades of orange and gold. Birds cross the sky as they return to their nests. Imagine arriving in a busy Roman city early in the morning. Merchants are opening their shops. Street vendors are preparing food. Citizens fill the roads. The city is already alive. But today, you are not here to buy bread, or olive oil, or fine clothing. You are here for something far more disturbing. Imagine following the crowd toward a large public square. The noise grows louder. Voices overlap. Coins clink. Animals move through narrow streets. The smell of food mixes with dust and sweat. Then you see it. The slave market, one of the largest businesses in the Roman world. Rows of people stand waiting, men, women, children, all displayed for sale. Imagine standing there, watching. Some stare silently at the ground. Others look nervously at the crowd. A few try to appear strong, healthy, useful, because their future may depend on the impression they make today. Roman slave traders often attached written descriptions to the people they sold: age, skills, health, place of origin. Everything became part of the transaction. Imagine seeing a young man from Greece, a woman captured during a distant war, a child separated from family, a skilled craftsman, a teacher, a farmer, a servant. Different lives, different stories, yet all standing together, waiting for someone else to decide their future. Now imagine the buyers. Some inspect muscles and teeth. Others ask questions about education, strength, skills, obedience. To them, this is business, an investment, a purchase, not a human life. The market continues throughout the day. Negotiations take place everywhere. Prices rise and fall. Coins exchange hands. Contracts are signed. Families are separated. Strangers become owners. And the crowd barely notices. Because for many Romans, this was normal. Imagine hearing an auctioneer call out prices. Voices competing above the noise. Potential buyers stepping closer, examining people as if they were livestock. A strong laborer might be purchased for farm work. A skilled artisan might work in a workshop. An educated slave could serve inside a wealthy household. Each person faces an uncertain future, and no one knows where they will sleep tomorrow. As the afternoon sun climbs higher, the square becomes hotter. Dust hangs in the air. The waiting feels endless. Some slaves may be sold quickly. Others remain standing for hours, watching buyers come and go, hoping, fearing, wondering what comes next. Imagine being one of them, unable to leave, unable to choose, knowing that by sunset, your entire life may belong to someone you've never met, and somewhere nearby. Another ship is arriving, bringing even more captives to the city, more lives, more stories, more people destined for the markets of Rome, because the demand for labor never truly ends, and the Roman Empire continues to grow. But before we follow those new arrivals, we need to understand where many of them came from, because beyond the cities, beyond the villas, and beyond the markets, Roman armies are still marching, and wherever Rome conquers, new captives often follow. Imagine standing near the edge of the market, trying not to attract attention, trying not to appear weak, but also not appearing too strong, because either could affect your price. Nearby, a trader argues with a potential buyer. Coins are counted. Numbers are discussed. The conversation lasts only a few minutes. Then a decision is made. A life changes hands. Just like that. Imagine how strange that would feel. One moment you belong to one owner. The next moment, you belong to another. No celebration, no ceremony, just a transaction. For many slaves, this was reality. Again and again, some were sold multiple times throughout their lives, each sale bringing new rules, new expectations, and new uncertainties. As the day continues, the market grows even busier. More buyers arrive, more traders appear. The sounds never stop. Shouting, bargaining, animals moving through crowded streets, the constant noise of commerce. Yet beneath all that noise, there is fear, quiet fear, the fear of not knowing where you will go next. Imagine seeing a mother trying to comfort her child, both waiting among strangers. Neither knows what will happen. Will they remain together, or be sold separately? No one can say. And that uncertainty weighs heavily on everyone. Not every slave in the market was a prisoner of war. Some had been born into slavery. Some had been abandoned as children. Others had been sold because of debt or hardship. Their paths were different, but they all arrived at the same place, standing in the same square, waiting for someone else to decide their future. As evening approaches, long shadows stretch across the stone streets. The crowd slowly begins to thin. Some slaves leave with new owners. Others remain unsold. W. The slaves begin their journey back to their sleeping quarters. Some return to crowded rooms shared with many others. Some sleep near workshops. Others sleep close to the fields where they work. Comfort is rare. Privacy is almost non-existent. But after such a long day, even a simple place to rest feels welcome. A small evening meal is served. Perhaps bread. Perhaps beans. Perhaps a few olives. The meal is simple, but hunger makes it satisfying. For a short time, the demands of the day disappear. People sit quietly. Some think about their families. Some think about the homes they lost long ago. Others think about freedom. As darkness settles over the Roman world, the stars begin to appear above the countryside. The noise of work fades away. The fields become silent. The city grows quieter. One by one, tired workers lie down to sleep. Tomorrow, before sunrise, the cycle will begin again. Another day of labor. Another day of obedience. Another day in the difficult and uncertain life of a Roman slave. As darkness settles across the Roman countryside, the day's labor finally comes to an end. The fields grow quiet. The tools are put away. The overseer's voice fades into the distance. For a brief moment, the slaves can rest. Yet even during these peaceful hours, their minds remain busy. Many think about the lives they once had. Some remember distant villages that no longer exist. Others remember parents, children, husbands, or wives they have not seen in many years. In the Roman world, slavery did not only affect individuals, it affected entire families. A husband could be sold away from his wife. A mother could be separated from her children. Brothers and sisters could disappear into different parts of the empire. The slave market showed little concern for keeping families together. People were bought and sold according to profit. Nothing more. Imagine sitting beside a small fire after a long day of labor. The stars shine above. The countryside is quiet. Around you are other slaves who have suffered similar losses. One man remembers his homeland beyond the sea.
Another remembers a daughter he has not seen for years. A woman remembers the family farm where she once lived before Roman soldiers arrived. These memories become precious treasures. Because for many slaves, memories are the only possessions nobody can take away. As the years pass, some slaves eventually marry. However, these marriages are often very different from those enjoyed by free Roman citizens. Roman law did not always recognize slave marriages in the same way. Even when two people built a life together, there was no guarantee they would remain together. At any moment, an owner could decide to sell one of them. The uncertainty created constant fear. Yet despite these hardships, people continued to form friendships. Families continued to grow. Children continued to be born. Life found a way to continue. For children born into slavery, the situation was especially difficult. They entered the world already belonging to someone else. Before they could walk, before they could speak, their future was already being decided. Many children began helping with simple tasks at a young age. They learned quickly that life would not be easy. Some worked in households, others helped in fields and workshops. Many grew up watching their parents struggle every day. Yet even among hardship, children still laughed. They still played games. They still dreamed. Because hope often survives even in the most difficult circumstances. As the years pass, another possibility begins to appear. Freedom. Although slavery was common in Rome, some slaves eventually earned or received their freedom. This process was known as manumission. For many slaves, freedom became the greatest dream imaginable. Imagine hearing the news that your owner plans to free you. After years of labor, years of obedience, years of uncertainty, your life may finally change. The thought alone is enough to keep many people motivated. Some owners rewarded loyal service. Others included freedom in their wills. A few slaves managed to save small amounts of money and eventually purchase their own freedom. But freedom was never guaranteed. Many slaves spent their entire lives waiting for a day that never arrived. Still, the possibility remained. And that possibility created hope. A freed slave did not automatically become wealthy. Life remained challenging. Yet freedom offered something priceless: the ability to make choices, to decide where to live, to decide where to work, to build a future, to wake up each morning knowing that your life belonged to you. As word of freed slaves spread through Roman society, many workers held on to that dream. Every hardship felt a little less overwhelming, because perhaps one day things would change. But not everyone chose patience. Some chose rebellion.